Good evening to all of our attendees. Thank you very much for joining our webinar in terms of investing in an IT project for EB5 Direct. There's obviously a number of activities that are currently taking place in terms of the changes to the program, but we're going to discuss a bit more about this IT project, and today we have quite an esteemed panel of speakers. The people that are our attendees that couldn't join through the Zoom platform, you may do so also through our Facebook page. Our team is in touch with you, and if you have any difficulties, please get in touch with them. Today we have KK, also Krishna, Garimella, Dr. Kanth, Miriyala, and Chak, Kakani. We're going to start off, I guess, really indulge in terms of this project, because I know a lot of you guys are shopping around or looking at the good project. But our esteemed speakers here are Chak. Is the Managing General Partner for AGGC, 8 years experience with Sprint as SME, 20 years plus experience in entrepreneurship, development, investments, coaching, mentorship, Managing General Partner at AGGC, Managing General Partner at Atlantis Blockchain Capital, co-founder at Maxwell LOT Technologies, Inc. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Dr. Kanth here as well. Quite jealous of his experience. Ph.D. from the University of Illinois, a speaker, author, mentor, advisor for tech companies, early stage investor advisors, co-founder of Quadrant, a BPO company that successfully was sold to iGate, which was in turn sold to Capgemini for US $4 billion in dollars. CEO of Maxwell IoT Technology, and the next person you'll be hearing from, KK, 16 years of overall experience in IT sales, administration, and enterprise management, founder and CEO at Omblick, board member at Resource Informatics Group, deep expertise in negotiating strategic partnership and alliance. Reason why I'm saying all this is because anyone that's looking for a good direct project, you really want to get a lot of background into who are behind this. And you can see, and obviously hear from these bios, that they have a lot of experience in this sector. And this is very critical in terms of investing in a project that you know the people that are behind this are very informative. They haven't just jumped into a project, but they've put together a project that is really, they have expertise and thought leadership in. And this is very important for our attendees. But we as BLS have been hosting a number of series of webinars, and we're quite pleased to be hosting these webinars for a lot of you that have joined. I'm recognizing a number of the people's names over here. After this webinar, please get in touch with our team. Type in your questions. This is a chance for you to speak to the founders for this project. And of course, they will try their best to answer as many questions as possible. If it is an very immigration-focused question, we might pause on that, but we should be able to get one of our experts that deal with EB5 to answer those questions at a later stage. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Anyway, I know it's dinner time for you, a lot of the people that have joined us. It's obviously breakfast for a number of people, as you can see KK with his mug coffee. And let's just enjoy this, make it very interactive. Please type in your questions. And KK, please, you start. You go ahead first.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction here, Sam. And it's always, pleasure to come into your webinar. It's always a lot of fun and excitement there. Hello, everyone. My name is Krishna Garimella. I go by KK. It's Krishna Kanth Garimella, so I go by KK. Sam has introduced, I run multiple companies. I run a technology product company, technology consulting company, a software development company, also investors into technology products and technology companies as well. And we are also, most importantly, for the context here, equity partners in Tata. We work very closely with the founders, in strategizing, advising them in some of the aspects. And EB5 is one of the introduction through our partner, Kanth and Dr. Kanth and Chak. And that is how Tata happened to enter into the EB5 space. Before I give it to Kanth for a quick introduction, when we say technology products or technology companies, the first challenge that comes to people's mind is we really don't understand how technology works. Okay, so it's very hard for us to really do the due diligence or to ensure that this is a good project or not. But that situation is no longer there, according to me, and we will try to minimize that confusion as much as possible. But if you look at 2020, the COVID situation, the only companies that were doing really, really well were technology companies. Now, technology was expected to be the solution to a lot of challenges that were out there. And Tata happens to be solving one of the most important and the critical aspect called the supply chain. Supply chains completely got disrupted. Dr. Kanth will kind of emphasize more on the supply chain aspect of it. But Tata, happened to be a breath of fresh air for a lot of corporate companies who happen to use their software today, and a lot of them in the pipeline as well. Now, we are also technology investors, like I said, and we invest in different kinds of technology companies. Some of them are absolute startups, but Tata is already a performing company. The founders have been in business for the past 25 years, and they're currently valued at around 180 million. The reason they are going through EB5 is as a way to bypass the venture capitalist round, so they don't have to dilute their equity nor give away control. Right? But I would like to pass on to Dr. Kanth for a quick introduction so I can come back and share with you some of the highlights about the project and take any questions that you might have. So without further ado, I would really appreciate if Dr. Kanth can take over and give some deeper insights as to your relationship with Tata, how did you know them and things like that. That would be great. Over to you, Dr. Kanth.
Good morning, good afternoon. In case you don't know, KK and I are coming at you live from Dallas, Texas. And it is early morning here, 8:45 in the morning. And that's why KK is busy drinking his cup of tea. And so I just wanted to start off by thanking BLS Global. Sam and us have known each other for years. We are good friends, and we are very, very grateful. BLS Global has been doing a phenomenal work helping people globally. We're truly, truly appreciative of Sam and his team. I know they have worked very, very hard to bring awareness of Tata to each and every one of you. So I wanted to start off by thanking Sam and his team. Really, really appreciate you guys. And like KK mentioned, we are people that are very relationship oriented. We have known Sam for several years. Similarly, our attorney, Mona Shah and Associates, that works with us, that has created the project docs for our project Tata. We have known them for many years, worked on multiple projects, and they are considered the top 25 attorney in the EB5 space. As you all know, while immigration is a general field, like the general physician, EB5 attorneys are more like heart surgeons. They're very specialized, and these people are rated extremely highly. And so those are the people that we work with. Similarly, with Tata, I have known the CEO of Tata for 4 decades at the risk of dating myself. Seshadri Guha and myself were classmates in IIT Madras in 1981 to 85. So we have known each other for 40 years now, 40 plus years. And I have been an advisor to CGN in the beginning and later on to Tata for over 10 years on and off. And so is Chak, and now even KK. So that's one more thing. And then a quick genesis of who we are. Why did AGG Capital need to be created is because we had several people come to us years back and ask us our help, because we were technology entrepreneurs and investors, and we kind of did pretty well in our investments, and people thought we would be helpful in helping them find EB5 projects to invest into. And that was the beginning a few years back when we got into EB5 space and realized the way you select EB5 is completely different from the way you select investments where you want returns. Here, as you all know, you're looking for two main things. Number one, is the project able to hire 10 people, right? Can it create 10 job positions so that you can get your green card? And the second thing that you're looking for is, can you get your money back? A distant third is, can you get some return on it, right? That's not the main thing. These are the two, no matter what anybody else tells you, please remember today, these are the two most important things that you are looking for. So with this fresh filters on, we started looking for projects. And our uniqueness, by now you noticed, Chak and KK and myself have a common interest in technology companies. We have been technology entrepreneurs and technology investors. So while we are advisors to many companies and investors in many companies, not all of them qualify for EB5 because it's a very special beast, as you guys know. So of all the projects that we work with, one stood out, which is TADA. And for many reasons, we knew them, they were organically growing. The pandemic completely disrupted the supply chain, and many companies, especially in the automobile sector, very close to where TADA is based out of, like Caterpillar, Navistar, Ford, all of these companies had their huge supply chains completely broken. They had no idea when the next shipment was coming, or even if it is even being manufactured. So in that situation, TADA started growing 3 times the normal rate and started adding phenomenal logos over the last 2-3 years, and started growing their valuation. From 2016 to now, they went from zero to over $150 million in valuation over the last few years. So, and why is that happening? It turned out pandemic was a positive for their growth in revenues, because companies that had disrupted supply chains were looking at TADA software. Think of TADA software as a digital carpet that you lay out over your supply chain, and it suddenly makes everything visible and communication is possible instantly. These are the fastest, TADA is the fastest technology that I have seen being rolled out over the supply chain ever. If you all know technology and you know companies like Snowflake, which was one of the biggest IPOs, that is a space in which TADA falls. Okay. So just wanted to tell you that that's a project we brought in, and they were organically in a TEA. They're in Peoria, Illinois, not for 1 or 2 years, not for EB5, but they have been there since 1995. So they've been organically in a place that is targeted employment area. So these were the reasons why TADA stood out for us. And there are many other reasons. In fact, our co-founder, who's not on the call today, Chak Kakani, has written a beautiful article explaining why IT is very appropriate for your EB5 visa. When we present our contact information, you will have our email ID, info@agg.capital. Please send us an email and we'll be very happy to send you a PDF of the article that Chak wrote. I highly encourage all of you to read that report, because it's going to be extremely useful for you to understand why IT for your EB5 project. With that, let me hand it back to KK. Thank you, KK.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kanth. That really helps. Now, I understand that there are 2 types of people attending this webinar here. One are extremely tech savvy. They might have followed every single thing Dr. Kanth has said and more. And then there's another set of people that might not have understood a lot of things, the technical jargon and things like that. So if the super technology people can tune me out for a minute, I'm going to talk to people who are just trying to understand technology, who probably might be end users of this technology. When I say end users, maybe you are using Amazon application. You do click, 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 and the product comes to your doorstep. And you may be using a food app like a DoorDash or something. Click, click, food arrives at your home. And you might be using Uber. Click, click, and the cab comes, to wherever you are. Now, this is exactly what technology has done. It made people's life easy. Now, the companies I refer to, Amazon or DoorDash or Uber, these are all B2C companies, what they have to say. That means they make the consumer's life easy. Now, Tada is a B2B company, which means they make the enterprises, the businesses, other businesses life easy. For example, there are companies like Navistar. Navistar is a truck manufacturing company. If you have seen a large 18-wheeler that has an international sign in the front, that has been assembled by Navistar. Now, to assemble a truck, they need thousands and thousands of different parts coming from different suppliers from various international countries, right? Now, in COVID, all the supply chain has been disrupted, right? So they don't know the arrival of the products. Some of you have been buying homes. That the homes have been delayed. Every delivery has been delayed. Now, in a cutthroat market like this, if you can predict your deliveries to your customers and give a better expectation, you stand out as a winner. And Tada makes that possible for a lot of companies. So that's one component of it, okay? The demand planning aspect of it, and a lot of other things that gives a lot of visibility to the leadership or the ownership of the company so they can make better decisions, they can be better prepared for the near future. Now, that said, let's talk more in relevance to the EB5 industry, okay? Now, the first thing is, now let me see if I can move my, okay, perfect. I'm able to move it. Now, let's talk really quick about the business growth. Now, when you see EB5 related projects, a lot of them are brick and mortar. A lot of them are location based. What do I mean by that? For example, if you take a restaurant or a real estate project, could be a nursing home, it could be a large resort or something like that. While you're sold on the physical asset and the property that there is, and that gives you a lot of security, you have to keep in mind one thing, that about 70% of it is already owned by the bank. Another 20-30%, or 20-25% is owned by other equity investors and mezzanine loan givers, right? Who are investing into those properties or restaurants or whatever, for a good return. Now, a small portion is given to the EB5 investors, and the way that cap table is treated is the first priority. If something has to go wrong, the first priority is given to the bank. So bank comes and take majority of their money. They want to make sure that they get every single bit of the money. And if there is anything left, it goes to the equity investors, mezzanine loan, and then it is given to the EB5 investors if there is anything left. Now, how can something go wrong? Because if you're talking about the location-based businesses, brick and mortar, that are heavily reliant on foot traffic, COVID has already demonstrated that foot traffic, can be disrupted, and people are so used to technology right now. They're tending to order their food, everything to their home. So since they're location-based, their scalability is always a question. That means they cannot, if I have a restaurant in Dallas, I'm sure you're not going to fly out from London or Dubai or even a different town here and come to my restaurants. That means my business is very limited to that specific area. But if you compare that with a technology company, the people that buy Tada software are worldwide. That means the scalability of the product is very, very rapid. And that is why these companies are valued very highly, right? Because they can grow very fast. They're very fastly scalable. They can start onboarding customers left, right, and center. And for them, whether it is COVID or not COVID, it doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, COVID helped them. They grew 3 times in COVID because more and more companies started realizing the importance of having technology, right? Now, that said, a company that grows leaps and bounds needs smart, intelligent people, right? So they need them in hundreds, literally, if not thousands. Now, we continue to hear a technology company has literally doubled its workforce. There was one company who was playing in the similar space. They had 500 employees. It went to 1,000, 1,200 employees. I was sharing this in a Bay Area seminar, a physical seminar, And one person raised his hand and he said, that's not even cool. My company was 400 employees 2 months back. It's now 1,000 employees. I said, oh, really? So when we talk about scalability, the growth, the job creation, it happens very, very fast in technology companies. So now, what is that we need to really look at when we are looking at a project, right? And I'll be done in about 5 to 7 minutes, so you can start asking questions. We look at the history. We look at the performance of the company. We look at, how did they do year over year, right? Is the money that I'm going to invest, are they going to use my money to start experimenting things, or do they already have substantial success even before I entered? Who else has skin in the game? As you know, might know, Tata already had $20+ million in institution funding already from high net worth individuals. Now, what Tata is trying to do is, before they go to the second round of funding, which is called the Series A, which will be in several millions of dollars, where they will have to dilute their equity and give some control to the venture capitalist firm. They would like to delay that process, bring in the EB5 capital, because they don't have to give away control or equity here, right? So that is the advantage they have going for the EB5 capital. And once they reach the 500 million or 700 million mark, that is when they would like to bring in the bigger capital or venture capital or private equity firms who would like to invest tens of millions of dollars into the company, right? So let me quickly skip this. This is for the sake of visual. Sorry about that. Okay, now who are the key customers for Tata, right? What kind of people have been buying Tata software? Now, to buy Tata software for installation, they don't pay 50 or 100 bucks. They pay $250,000 annually to about $5 million annually, and they usually sign multi-year contracts, right? These are large multi-billion-dollar companies, Fortune 500 companies. That is whom Tata caters to. So a single customer is worth millions to them in revenue. Okay, so I'm sure you must have heard about companies like Caterpillar, Honeywell, Peet's Coffee, Oshkosh, Kraft Foods. All of these companies are customers of Tata, and you'll see a lot of other customers that we did not include. But by the time we created this PowerPoint, they added a lot more customers, as a matter of fact, right? So I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. Tata was introduced or included into the Magic Quadrant. As a matter of fact, they created a separate category for them, and they have been awarded the Cool Vendor of the Year in 2021, which is a big deal for any technology company where Gartner recognizes you, right? Now, this is us a little bit, I'll not bore you with this. These are the founders of Tata. So Sheshadri Guha, that happened to be a friend of Dr. Kanth for the past 40 years. And if you see tremendous amount of experience and accolades, they have been playing a major role in the community as well. They've been very connected politically as well, but they have done a lot of good to the local community and to the nation as a whole. Right? Harsh Kopula, also both of them from IITs, have tremendous amount of pedigree. You see Mark, their EVP, Jim, their CFO of the company, and Akshay Deshpande to be their CTO. These are all big names in the industry. Now, you might also have heard most of these names. Sanjay Khosla, the former president of Kraft International, sitting on Tata's board. John Michael, chairman and CEO of RLI Insurance. Drew Parker, CEO of Carter Machinery. Bob Turner, founder of Turner Investments. You'll also see Doug, who happens to be former chairman and CEO of Caterpillar again. It looks like my work has started on the other side, so let me put that part. Okay, and so these are all big names that have invested into the company, associated their name with the company, right? Now, let's see if anybody has any questions in the meantime. Dr. Kanth, you would like to add anything? You'd want to take over the slide and share a little bit, because they might be already bored with my voice. So let's bring in a
Sonorous voice. I was enjoying it. So just wanted to add to that. because one of the things that we noticed about real estate projects, because you all probably know what is happening on March 11th, Sam might have updated, otherwise we'll be happy to do that as a part of Q&A today. And given what we are expecting to happen on March 11th, I think it's important to know that there'll be a spate of RC-backed real estate projects back on the scene. And therefore, it's very important for you to understand what is the advantage of this IT project. While that is there in the article that we wrote, let me give you a quick synopsis. See, one of the things that we found is real estate projects tend to be very illiquid. That means if I've invested my $500,000, I got my green card, I want my money back, there might be some time before a financing event actually happens and provides liquidity for you to get your $500,000 plus the promised interest back. But what happens when you're dealing with an IT project, especially a growing in valuation IT project like TADA, is because there is a lot of demand for private shares. Imagine you could get into any technology company before they went public. You could get the private shares. You would make multiples when it goes public. So there's a lot of demand for the private shares of a company like TADA before it goes public or whatever exit that they end up having. So what happens is, at a time where you get your green card and you want your money back, their shares are very, very liquid, and they can easily convert some of them into the money that is required to return not only your $500,000 in capital, but also return the interest that is promised to you. Now, while we notice that that is not the primary reason, remember, going back to number one, can the project create 10 job positions for your EB5? And number two, can you get your money back? Those are the two primary criteria. But the third criteria that is there for you is the interest that will be paid. And most projects in EB5 generally tend to vary between 0.5% or even 0.25% all the way to 3%. And TADA returns 2.5% per year for the number of years that you're in the process until you get your green card. Okay. So, and we already, just to repeat some of the things that we're talking about, SaaS revenue and supply chain, fastest growing, hottest tech sector company, right? Those kind of go together. 3x growth, we told you about how COVID enabled a faster growth because of a broken supply chain, and supply chain software became extremely useful. Target employment area, we already told you that they have been in Peoria for 25 years, even before they knew anything about EB5 visas. By the way, we educated them. They had no idea what it was. And we like to bring in projects like that are doing well independent of EB5. And this is, by the way, this is the only time TADA will raise EB5 capital. Never before, never after. Okay. So, and in the private placement memorandum, you will find that there is, we have asked for 30 EB5 investors, but TADA board has only approved 10 so far, and we are almost at the end of it. So people that want to move should probably think of moving fairly quickly. And 400 full-time job positions will be created in the next couple of years. So there are enough job positions here, because as you all know, currently, the only thing that is in law is not RCs, but direct pool projects. Okay. Hope that helps. Back to KK. Yeah.
All right. So why don't we go ahead and take some questions here. The reason I froze the screen is so you understand the value offering from TADA. So the first question is from Francis. Francis said he's been waiting on a 526 for 3 years. How can we help him move to this project? That is more of an attorney question, Francis. So definitely talk to an attorney, see if there is a possibility, and we would love to work with you there. And then Vikas asked question, said, I've seen the brochure. Please explain the equities only. When he says low, it is, why is it only 2.5%? Right? So if you're really looking for an investment standpoint where you're looking at multiples of 2x and 3x kind of an investment, this might not be a good investment. You know, I can tell you right off the bat. But if you're looking for a project that is doing extremely well, has great revenues coming in, and on a tremendous growth curve, and if you want a de-risked project, while nobody can guarantee you anything or guarantee anybody anything, look for a de-risked project for the sake of job creation, return on funds and return on investment, TADA can make a great project. All right. But if you're really looking for 2x, 3x kind of a institutional investor type of an investment, this might not be a great opportunity for you. But if you're looking for a green card and if you want to make sure that the jobs are created, your money is secure, you'll get the returns that has been promised, definitely a project to look into, right? Hope I answered that question with us.
So KK and Dr. Kanth, thank you for the nice introduction, because there's a lot of questions that are popping up. And
Sure.
obviously, I think we should really talk about the breaking news in terms of March the 11th, where we're looking at regional centers are going to be reauthorized. It still has to be approved. People will want to know, is TADA going to be in a TEA area? If, what will happen in comparison to some people that are doing hotels, they're probably stuck because of the new old mapping system. But with the IT, you can have your operations in a TA, right? Just to give that ease and confidence to the investors.
Right. So, TADA.
Yeah, let me take that. So there are two ways, right? One is they're a part of a rural area, or they're at high unemployment at 50% greater than the national average in unemployment. And Peoria happens to be such an area. So even with the new bill, it will continue to be in a targeted employment area. But KK, please add to that.
No, that is absolutely right. TADA, based on any metrics, if you see, TADA will be in the TE area because Peoria, Illinois is considered as a TE area. That is one of the things. And then what was the other question? Is it the only question, or is there any other specific question you want us to focus on, Sam? That might.
I think we have a question from Mohit. He wants to understand, IT software engineers are paid very well in the US. Now, not everyone has access to the business plan, but they really want to understand where are the new jobs being created, because the EB5 program is very much driven on job creation, right? Minimum, and where your buffer is, where are these jobs going to be created, so people can have the confidence.
Oh, that was a question I wanted to take immediately, but I thought you would have a different question. So I'll answer in two parts, okay? The industry trends, what kind of jobs are being created and things like that. As you know, TADA Cognitive Solutions is creating a subsidiary called TADA Now Direct, just to make sure the job creation is clean and things like that. So they will be starting the job creation from HR, operations, finance, accounting, sales, customer support, engineers, quality assurance. So everything is listed in the PPM. If you're interested in looking at, you just have to sign an NDA and the PPM will be shared with you. Okay. Now that said, where do they get these new hires from? The location Peoria is surrounded with some of the amazing universities, top universities. And I, interestingly or coincidentally, studied from Peoria in Bradley University, which has about 25,000 plus graduating every single year. About 1 hour south of that, there's a university that Dr. Kanth went. It's called University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, which is the top 10 universities in the world, if not the country. Top 10 universities in the world, and the country, if not the world, right? And there are a lot of universities in Chicago, which is about 2 to 2.5 hours northeast of Peoria. So majority of these hires come from there. Now, when we say IT engineers or software engineers have to be paid very, very high. Now, again, it depends on the location you're in. If you're talking about California or New York and places like this where prevailing wages are very, very high, we're talking about 100,000, 125,000, 150 plus thousand also, depending upon who you're hiring. But in a place like Peoria, you get anywhere between 60 to 90,000, depending upon who you are. What kind of position that is. That gives you a better lifestyle, than living in California. And that is the reason why, if you look at the trend right now, people who have been employed in California and places like that are making a move to places like Dallas so they can have a better lifestyle. There was a friend of mine who took 15% cut in Seattle just to move to Dallas because he said, I can afford a better home. I can have a better lifestyle for whatever I make, even if I make 15% less. And that is exactly what the founder said. They said they can afford a better house, better amenities. Everything is going to be better in terms of lifestyle because the cost of living is not that much, even for the salaries that they're making. That is one more reason. Okay? Now, the jobs created for the $500,000 is not just with your 500,000. It also including multiple other revenues that they're getting, which means they get your EB5 capital, the revenues that they're making, and also the upcoming institutional round funds. It is just that you're getting the benefit of simply allocating these jobs to you at the time of 829. As a matter of fact, the project is likely to create more jobs than it is actually showcasing. So allocation of jobs, creation and allocation of jobs is not at all a challenge. But one of the most confusing things in EB5 is people think their 500,000 alone should not only create the jobs, but also continue paying for jobs for the next 5, 6, 7 years. That cannot happen in any project, okay, whether it is a restaurant or anything, right? But the overall jobs need to be created and maintained with the revenues and other investments coming in, but they will be allocated to you. And more importantly, these are job positions, right? So for example, if the company has hired, 10 employees and 10 employees leave and there are another 10 jobs, 10 people hired for the positions, there are 20 job positions created technically, right? Because we can showcase the W-2s of each and every employee. That's how we count the jobs that have been created, right? Hope that answers the question. Hope it was elaborate. But Dr. Kanth, you want to add anything to that?
No. I think there are a lot of questions. Let me go through them. First one was, how long are the contracts with the existing partners? This being a SaaS company, they're usually multi-year contracts with annuity type of revenues with companies like Caterpillar, Navistar, and so on. With the new proposed bill, will the project still be in TA? We already answered that. If I invest, KK, this is a question for you. If I invest, would I be able to have a job in this project?
No, you cannot have a job in the same company that you're investing in. Unfortunately, that's a attorney question, but I don't know the reasoning. For me, it looks why not, but not only you can get hired, you cannot count something like that. That's an attorney question, though.
Yeah. I think also what's important, let's talk about the deadline, because literally we have 48 hours in terms of filing. So the people that are very much interested and they want to file and that are looking at the projects,
right?
Everything is ready, KK and Dr. Kanth, on your side from a project point of view. Yes, you have all the documentation, you have the TA letter, everything's ready. What is needed from the investor side to go into your project? Because we've done a lot of due diligence on your project. We really are happy with the project and we really support it, and it's an outstanding project. But what do they need to do? No, because you as the project sponsors have every documents ready, EA letter, documentations, you already have investors in the project. What do they need to do? Because a lot of the people here are coming from India, probably from mainly Asia market. What do they need to do? If I was an investor now, what would you advise the investor if they want to get into your project? What do they need to do?
Dr. Kanth, shall I take that question?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So number one, most important thing about the March 11th deadline is we still don't know if there is going to be a grace period, meaning once they decide to change the investment amount, which is likely to go to $800,000 for the TEA area. They typically give a 30-day or a 60-day deadline, but there is also, people are also saying that there might not be a grace period. So March 11th is the deadline, technically speaking. Now, if that is going to be the case, the only way you can get into the project is if your source of funds and everything is clean and done, and all you need to do is just wire the funds. If you're in a situation like that, then the 526 petition The entire template is ready. The attorneys just have to take your documents, put it in, and send it out. Now, there are some people who are in a partial filing situation where they have partial funds, but then they have a reason why the funds are going to be delayed, like they're waiting for a sale of property or land or inheritance, something or the other. As long as it is valid, you qualify, you can also do partial filing, and the project enables that and allows that as well. I'll also answer one quick question here. One of the gentlemen asked, what is the total capital contribution? I mean, how much did the project sponsors already did? Like we mentioned, 20+ million has already been invested from the project owners and also the high net worth individuals that are sitting on the board right now that you're going to see. So they have a lot of skin in the game, as a matter of fact, right? And the only reason why they are delaying the venture capital is so they can protect their equity. Right? I hope I answered both the questions.
I think a lot of people are underestimating how much effort you had to put in order to get the founders or the consortium, into this. It wasn't an easy, operation. I think,
Exactly.
not a lot of IT companies put their name towards such projects.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the kind of people that have invested their money, even excluding us, even if you don't recognize us, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of high net worth individuals. They're CEOs and chairmen and presidents of Fortune 500 companies, and they will not associate forget money. They won't associate their name in the first place in something that they don't believe will do very, very well or add value, in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And of course, Dr. Kanth and KK, you've also put your name towards this as being successfully raised EB5 before. So a lot of people ask about track history, track record and background. So, you're not just a new entry to this. You've raised capital through EB5.
Right.
And what motivated you to put this forward to investors?
Fantastic. Dr. Kanth, you want to give a little history as to how we started the EB5 process?
Yeah, I'll just repeat a checklist, right? First of all, as you know, Sam, we work on relationships, and we have known you for years. We have known Mona Shah and Associates for years, and KK, myself, Chak have known each other for 20 years each. So we are not randomly here doing AGGC Capital. Seshadri Guha and myself have known each other for 40+ years. I've known Harsh Kopula, the president, for over 10 years. So these are companies and many companies fall into that space. And Tata is a company that we have been advising from the time it was CGN before it became Tata, or it gave birth to Tata in 2016. So we have known them for many years. So that's the first thing. And second thing is the empathy that they have. Guha, Harsh, KK, Chak, myself, all of us came in on F1 visas, went through the process, CPTs and OPTs and H1Bs and green cards. So we understand this. And the other thing is we have seen not only us going through the process, but we have seen the pain getting more and more acute over the years, to a point where it became simply impossible for H1Bs with a waiting time of over 100 years. It became absurd. So many of our own friends and family members started coming to us and asking. And quite frankly, we were already advisors to Tata for the longest time. We never even looked at them through the lens of EB5 until they came to us and said, we are planning to raise the next round of funding. And then we thought, wait a minute, Peoria is already in the TEA. We asked them, have you considered EB5? And they said, what's EB5? So, and that's when we realized that, okay, this is an organically good project. And we have our own. When you look at the multiple projects that we have raised money for over the years, these are projects that we selected because we believe in the projects, right? And we brought in our experience as investors, except as we told you here, the idea is not to get the returns, but to get your green card. So we want you to understand that the criteria for selecting these projects is different. When we applied all of them and we saw that Tata was organically growing, and when they showed us the hiring they were planning to do, we said, oh my goodness, the positions that we need are already in here. And originally we were designing this as an RC project, but then as you all know, things changed last year, and our attorneys helped us create an EB5 direct pool project because we did not need the multiplier that the RC projects gave us. They were hiring so many people that for the first 10 investors that we have been approved, the 100 people, literally, Harsh was laughing when we were talking to him. He says, I have the 100 people. I'm only waiting so that all the investors' money goes through so that we can start hiring and attributing these 10 employees for each of these investors. So that's what gave us the confidence that this is the right project to bring to the EB5 space.
Absolutely. And also, Kanth, we were actually introduced to EB5 ourselves through friends and family who wanted us to do some due diligence. That is when we really understood the power of EB5, how it can really help people get their green card, if they invest their money in the right projects. So that was our introduction. But anyways, there are some very good questions here about the regional center model, right? When the reauthorization happens. Now, the best part about TADA is it's a hybrid model. It can take direct, but once the reauthorization happens, it can also, act as an RC project. So you can come in as a regional center investor as well, and thereby you can leverage the indirect and infused jobs as well. Now, with respect to how many more investors they are willing to take, I think about 5 investors is what the company has more appetite for. But good projects don't last for too long, right? So if you're really done with the source of funds and if you're ready to roll and if you want to take advantage of the 500K, I think you have to immediately talk to BLS, Sam, and get connected. We'll be available, so we can take care of you immediately. Right? Now,
we have a question from Nikhil, because we know,
Sure.
EB5 direct is at 500. That's set under USCIS. There is an administration fee, so speak to a member of our team, and there's a legal fee. You completely go independently in terms of your attorney. The good thing is, as Dr. Kanth and KK has mentioned, Mona Shah is very adverse to filing for investors on this project, which is available. So those are your costs actually in terms of investment wise. We know that there are a few questions in terms of there's a question here is what is the assurance that the project will not be stalled or exited after during the 5 years? I've heard that a lot of companies have shut down. Yeah, we suddenly started getting a lot of calls from investors because they want to move. And that's because you should have done your due diligence at the beginning. This was a crazy market, when it started entering into places like India, and it was a very attractive market, but a lot of people didn't carry out the due diligence. Even we had to go for a number of processes to understand how to enhance our due diligence, not due diligence. So hence why Dr. Kanth and KK, you spent a lot of time in putting this project to the market, right? They underestimate how much due diligence you've guys been first-hand experienced in terms of putting investors on a number of EB5 projects, but how much due diligence you've done. What can you say to assure people that this ain't a fly-by operation, and we are going to see Dr. Kanth and KK 10 years, 20 years down the line in this?
This is assurance, because Sanjay Khoslas of the world and Doug and Aruna, these people don't like people bullying them on the internet, on social media, saying that this is a fly-by-night operation. All these people have been associated with something that was a fly-by-night operation. And also today there's a lot of data available on the internet. If you simply go to TADANOW.com, there are a lot of white papers that have been published. There, third-party analysts like Forbes, Gartner speak heavily about TADA. If you look at the way they have grown, right? Forbes have been awarding them, and CIO. These are all third-party analysts. They talk about large enterprise companies, their growth potential, and unfortunately, because this is EB5, I have to kind of caution my words when I speak. But if it was anywhere else, We would be talking this as the next unicorn in the making. But I understand with respect to EB5, I have to be very careful so it doesn't appear like any sort of a guarantee or something, because your capital needs to be at risk.
Yeah.
And despite of what we all say, we recommend every investor to ask questions, do their due diligence before they make a decision, right? But as obvious as it looks, this is not a typical startup. The company has been proven, the founders have been proven, they have a shining history. The board is very strong. And a lot of times when we speak to the attorneys as to why projects fail, there's only one answer. The investors put their money into the hands of people that do not know how to handle money. Typical startups, they say, oh, this restaurant is starting, and they put the money, and he has bought some amazing mahogany chairs for people to sit, right? You don't know where to put the money or how to use the money, usage of funds. So you have to be very careful. These are people who have successfully built companies and made them extremely successful, millions of dollars in valuation. There's a very strong board. Every single thing has to go through the approval of board, because there are multiple brains that would analyze and make a decision that is good for their investors and good for the company. So it's very obvious, right? Putting your money into somebody that has experience and strong board, strong management, and that is very critical. Not just for EB5, for any kind of an investment. If we are investing into some company, we look at the people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So KK and Dr. Kanth, a lot of investors are in this dilemma, aren't they? Do we go into the direct, or should we wait for the regional center model? So this has become a bit of a dilemma in the last couple of days.
So there are pros and cons in both, right? So in a direct project, you don't have to worry about, lapses and things like that. As you know, the regional center, again, has been authorized only for 2 years or 2.5 years. And if the Congress decides not to renew again, then there is again a lapse. But the advantage is you can count the indirect and the induced jobs. Whereas the direct project, direct or direct pool projects, they might not be able to count indirect and induced jobs, but there's no risk of them getting lapsed and getting delayed and things like that.
Yeah.
So that is the primary difference.
So since 1990, direct has been around. So it hasn't been on pause. Just for the investors to be aware, there has been a lapse, so meaning there's a pause. And what will also happen is when the regional centers are reauthorized, they'll be back of the queue because there's a lot of pending petitions, right? So they'll be back of the queue. So this is a key factor to consider, especially if you're an Indian national, which we use the word retrogression. We don't want you to be in that retrogression. So in that way, we're all talking about mitigating risk, and it's investing in a safe. So with direct, it's safe. It's no lapse. It's going to be there. It has been there. So this is, again, something that you have considered to be a very safe investment for investors at low risk.
Yeah. And also when the regional center lapsed last year in June, all the people who invested in the direct projects got their 526 approved in 3 to 6 months.
Excellent.
Because they're not touching, USCS is not touching the regional center applications because it is lapsed. The only applications they got were direct projects that were in hundreds, that's it.
I'm seeing a lot of questions from Mohit. Mohit, one of our team members will be in touch with you. I know a lot of investors want to speak to other investors, but we have to get prior permission from the investor to see if they're happy. If you want to answer,
the challenge we have is we don't want to bombard the investors with the introduction. So what we requested our investors is at least a couple of them to give a short blurb or a video bite so we can show it to the investors. So that way, because we get inquiries at least from 10 to 12 people every single day. Mm-hmm. And the most common question for assurance, and we understand it's important that, you have to see, how others are doing, right? And we understand that, but practically, it is not possible them talking to people every single day, and it's not fair to them as well. So we would at least give you that video testimonial if you're really, really serious and you want to go forward. Yeah. So that much we can do.
Good, good. I think we've answered a lot of questions. I don't know, Dr. Kanth, is any questions that stands out for you that you would like to discuss?
I've been typing the answers in, so
Early morning, typing away, your fingers are hurting, which is good.
Kika has been busy answering them. I thought I'll just speed it up by answering some of the questions. So I think we kind of covered many of these. If I get denied, will the project refund my investment? The general answer is yes. The detailed answer is in the private placement memorandum. When are the returns paid out after you get your green card? What is your exit strategy? Please explain. So these are all standard. So Tata is looking at going public. That's why we like it. It'll be a multi-year project. It'll be there beyond your green card. So my child has been given a placement to Stanford and an F1. If we apply for EB5, would that affect his visa application? The answer is no. Stay period during I-29. Do I have to be in US for 6 months? Standard green card rules. This EB5 is just a process to get your green card. That does not change the green card rules. Equity and ROI is low. Yeah, because the project is designed for you to get your green card, not to get your returns. I need more details on the costing, as a job placement for software engineers is expensive. We answered that money is coming from revenues, from EB5 investment, from venture capitalists, and all of that money is going towards hiring. But nobody else wants the job count as EB5. So all the monies will create jobs, but the jobs are only counted for EB5 investors.
If you don't mind me adding one thing, Dr. Kanth, and it is very obvious when you invest in a technology company, 80% of the revenue, 80% of the investment typically goes into job creation only, because they don't have material costs. They're not building buildings. If you're going to invest in a restaurant, nursery home, real estate, 80% is construction cost. Here, the asset is good, talented employees for the company who can build some amazing softwares, and fulfill the vision of the founders. So you have to keep that in mind, that majority of your investment is actually directly going into job creation. And like Dr. Kanth always says, the three aspects, one, are the jobs going to be created? Mm-hmm. Are they going to return my money? And is there some kind of ROI I can make on that return? That is the order of priority, because the 10 jobs will give you the green card. And the only reason why 10 jobs cannot be created is if the company is not doing well. But that answers, that we cannot predict the future, but we can look back and see how they have done and make some predictions for the future. Now, if you look back and see the history of the company, they have done extremely well. So it makes it easier for us to predict the future as to what they can potentially do. So that tells you that the job creation is there. Now, how about returning my money? They are least interested in your money, once it is due, right? Because for them, reputation is everything. It is going to be a next unicorn. They're going to get a lot of institutional money. So they're not going to play around with $500,000, right? So that's something that you might want to keep in mind. And then the return that you already know, it's 2.5% return is what you can expect from the company. So that's all we can tell to summarize, unless there are any pressing questions. We see a lot of EB5 related legal questions that are usually should be answered by the attorneys. If you have not actually retained an attorney, we would highly recommend to do that and do it quickly. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just two things I just want to quickly cover is, one is they're talking about video project become from a direct pool project to an RC project. That depends on the bill, the exact wording. Right now, there's a lot of speculation. So it'll be depending upon our attorney's counsel in order to figure out what to do next. And the final question is, can we talk to some of the investors in Tata? No, you cannot. There is a high degree of confidentiality. People don't like to publicize that they're going through their EB5 process and they made such a huge investment. So there's a high degree of confidentiality. Can you talk to Tata project and get a demo or visit Peoria or come and meet us? Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
But you cannot talk to the investors in the project. Sorry.
Okay, so we have one question in. What happens if I want to stay invested in the project after I get my green card?
This is a So a lot of people have asked that, understanding the potential return. So
That's
this is
because KK and Dr. Kanth, you've created a good project.
but for now, what you have to go with the PPM. Once you get your green card, you will get your money back, and then you will have to talk to the founders because of the relationship you have built to see if they can do. If there's a potential of getting any upside as a institutional investor. So we don't want to mix both at this point of time. That's what the attorneys have recommended, not to actually, because it's very difficult for them to put together a PPM and an offering document with multiple clauses like that. They want it to be simple so you can get your green card. That's the most important thing, right? So, because understand the USCIS officer has to understand it.
KK, having said that, if you and I were running TADA, and if somebody came in early and helped us with their funding and later on wanted equity, we would certainly be leaning towards, while we cannot guarantee, because the problem is we cannot predict the future. If there are venture capitalists that come in saying that you cannot give equity out to anybody else and dilute this further, then our hands would be tied. That's why it's very hard to promise anything. But just common sense suggests that your chances of being able to, when you have a choice of getting your money back or converting to equity, just ask TADA and they would look at you very favorably for sure. Yeah.
So there's a question, what's the exit gate? I'm not sure if I followed the question. Did you understand what that means?
I think, well, what is the exit? I think you've explained a bit, in terms of after the whole process. The whole idea of EB5 is to get your green card, get your money back, and obviously an interest. So that's the setup of EB5.
Correct.
And if you want to do a direct investment, that's a different conversation, completely from EB5. So
right.
I think that's what we're talking. Yes. So yeah, so the viewers, again, I know you're asking a lot of similar questions. We're re-emphasizing again and again, time is of the essence. If you want to get involved in this project, it's not like, you've heard it from the founders and the people that have, the history and the background. You do need to act on this. What you need to do is, one, appoint an attorney. The source of funds is not a simple process. It can be a complex process, especially from the countries that you'll be filing for. You'll be surprised the amount of documentation that has to take place. So that's a priority. And of course, the paperwork and the documentation is pretty much in place from the project. And, it's not like an RC model where there's hundreds and hundreds of investors. Direct has a limited amount of investors on a pool project. So especially being an IT, a robust, booming industry, my advice is speak to the attorney, get yourself locked in, and they will work out a way in order to get you locked into the project. I know KK and Dr. Kanth, if you would like to say your final words. I know it's early morning. You've had a bit of teas and coffees, and coming up to lunch hour soon.
Yes. I will go first and let KK wrap up. But I want to reiterate, guys. So I want to start off by thanking Sam and his team, because these are not fly-by-night operators. We have seen them operate in this space for years. So they'll be here today, they'll be here tomorrow, they'll be here before the bill and after the bill. So these are people taking their reputation, because they're here in the long run. They want to make sure that you guys get your projects and come back and talk good things about them so that they can get more investors in the future. That's common sense. So first of all, a big thank you to BLS, and a phenomenal job they have done. They have worked extremely hard. We have talked to their team several times. They've been round the clock on the phone answering questions about projects. So we are truly grateful for their contribution to not just TADA, but EB5 in general, because I've seen Sam be dedicated to this industry space for years. Really hats off to you guys. So very, very thankful to you guys. And the second thing that Sam said is, this is the only time it will be 500,000. That's pretty much, if there is something that everybody is agreeing on, if you're looking for a 500,000 investment level, you need to set your tail on fire and move. It's literally hours that matter now. But there are also several people that came to us and that were ready to invest, but they said, I'm not in a big hurry. I can afford 800,000 or 900,000, whatever the number turns out to be. We actually had such a conversation 2 days back, KK and I. And if money doesn't matter to you, that's great. Then hold on, and then you can be more relaxed in your process. But if the difference between 500 and 800 means green card or no green card, you really, really need to move quickly. That's my parting advice to you. And then over to KK.
I don't know if I can add anything else. That's what I was trying to say. If you're okay with $800,000, you can maybe take it a little slow. But when we say slow, that doesn't mean forever, because the priority date is still a concern. When you actually put your money and how many people have put their money at that point of time will make a big difference in your priority dates, right? And when you can get green card. We have seen 1 day can be 1 year for a day to move, when it comes to priority dates, because it looks like it is coming forward, but it'll go backward. I don't know how that happens. That's the magic of the USCIS. But it is very important that you're not just thinking in terms of money, but also the time frame that you're investing. It's extremely important. Now, if we get a grace period for whatever reason, 30 days or 60 days before they change the investment amount, there will be a mad rush, because we have seen that every time there is a hard deadline to anything, people will automatically start picking up. But what I would recommend is whether there is a deadline or not, or whether there is a grace period or not, if you have decided to come to the States through the investment route, you have to think seriously about it, because things will keep changing in the EB5 space. Now we're talking about 800,000. They said this is the only time it is going to be 500,000. Tomorrow we'll be talking about this is the only time it's going to be 800,000 also. That day also is not too far. So that's why we're saying, if you have to make a decision to come to the States, make it quickly and follow it up with some solid action, so you can be part of the program as well. Okay. With that said, we are done. We enjoyed talking to you. Hope it was of some value to you, and we are very thankful for Sam for putting this platform together, where a lot of people got benefited in the past and will be benefited in the future as well. So great work, Sam. Over to you.
Thank you. I think this was like coffee with KK and Dr. Kanth. So we should do more of this. Good. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining the coffee with Dr. Kanth and KK. And please, if we haven't been able to answer your questions, get in touch with our team, and we'll be able to answer a number of questions that we haven't been able to fully answer. But again, the attorney questions, will get the attorneys to answer those questions.
Yeah, and if you have questions, please get in touch with BLS Global, and they will put you in touch with us as needed. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Take care. Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.